Even though the Eastern Panhandle is close to the DC area, about 80 miles, it's very different and probably very different from any large metro area. So, I'm going to go over what those differences are. So, if you live in a city now, you'll have an idea of what to expect if you were thinking of moving here. And by the way, our contact information is below. And if you're interested in learning about the Eastern Panhandle, consider subscribing. I lived in DC for a while, years ago. And at that time, I liked the busy city vibe. Not so much now. It's just different here. For example, the ambiance, what you look at every day. In most metro areas, there's not a lot of natural areas that are just left alone. Everything's plotted and groomed, even the hiking paths there. In the city, you're mostly looking at buildings, and some of them are very beautiful, but it's a different kind of beauty. This area is more mountainous. So, what you look at every day when you're driving around, it's just very different. You're also more aware of the seasons and what grows naturally according to the season, because there's lots of terrain here that is just left to nature. There's no large buildings to speak of, more open areas. It's quieter than living in a city. The downtown areas here are historic small towns, as opposed to the modern high-end stores, office buildings, or government buildings, as is the case in DC. A large part of the economy here is agricultural. So there's more access to fresh produce, farmers markets, things like that. Lots of people here hunt. So a traditional style cooking is what you see more of. Fruit pies and cobblers, venison is more common. The food choices, particularly ethnic foods, are not as diverse as what you find in the DC Baltimore area. I'm not saying that you only get traditional food here. There's ethnic restaurants here, and there's good ones, but certainly not on the scale you see in the large metro area like DC, Baltimore. When we lived there, I remember restaurants like Ethiopian, which was delicious, Greek food trucks, Peruvian food, Korean food, and I admit I miss that part of living in a big city. But like I said, there's some good ethnic food here. Thai. The food at Thai Martinsburg is wonderful. It's just as good as any Thai restaurant I've been to anywhere. There's Indian, Chinese, Mexican, so it is getting better, but the diversity of food choices in the DC area is greater for sure. Both areas offer their own cultural identity and activities, and that's very different. In DC, it's on a much grander scale. Of course, they're home to the famous attractions like the Smithsonian Museum, National Gallery of Art, the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. We don't have large museums. The only one I've been to here is the John Brown Wax Museum in Harper's Ferry. And compared to the museums in DC, it's quaint, to say the least. We mostly have galleries where local artists and crafters display and sell their work. Festivals, community parades are more typical here. Theater here is community theater, local talent. For example, the Apollo Theater in Martinsburg has been operating as a playhouse since 1913. The CATF Contemporary American Theater Festival operates out of Shepherd University in Shepherdstown. And that's really beyond community theater. It's not Broadway. It's somewhere in between. So for a week in July, the CATF sponsors a series of plays, and people from all over the country attend. The actors, many of them are professional, and I've been to a few, and they are really well done. The ITF also sponsors lunches or talks with the playwrights and festival directors to discuss what's going on with the plays. You can find out all about that, plus the schedule for plays in July at their website, catf.org. Politically, the Eastern Panhandle has a more rural and conservative political climate with a greater emphasis on traditional values and small government. DC tends to be more liberal, and as are many large cities. Historical significance. DC, of course, reflects the history of the United States from the beginning, and that's represented in the huge Smithsonian complex. But when I lived there, I really didn't feel the historic ambiance as much as I do here. So I think all the new contemporary buildings there, it just sort of gets covered up. We live close to downtown Martinsburg, and just about all the buildings are older. And that's true for all the other small towns here. There's a lot of Civil War history here, and many of the buildings were built before that time. They have not been torn down and replaced with more contemporary structures. And it just gives you a sense of bygone times. There's also more opportunities for outdoor recreation, hiking, fishing, camping, mountain climbing. And then, of course, there's the big difference in the cost of living. Homes here are way lots less expensive, as are the property taxes. So, wrapping all this up, if you prefer a fast-paced, cosmopolitan lifestyle with a wide range of cultural offerings and are pursuing a career, maybe in politics, for example, then a large metro area like Washington, D.C. is probably going to be more appealing to you. If you prefer a slower pace, a lower cost of living, small historic towns, being outdoors, the option for being involved in the community, and lots less expensive, then you'll love the Eastern Panhandle. And like I said earlier, once upon a time, I enjoyed that crazy fast pace, but I certainly don't now. I love living in the Eastern Panhandle. I like the people here. In DC, as in many large metro areas, it seemed like a lot of emphasis is placed on material things like what you do for a living, things like that. And that's not the case so much here. And I like that better. Okay, thanks for tuning in. If you are thinking of relocating here, I've done lots of videos on this area, and I put out a new one every week. So subscribe and get notified when a new one comes out. And also, you can download the relocation guide if you like. It has information about the 3 counties, schools, health resources, things like that. The link to download it is meetmeinthepanhandle.com/relocation guide. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. Bye.